American drivers are bracing for another hit at the gas pump, thanks to new tariffs imposed on Canadian energy imports. In recent weeks, tensions have mounted as U.S. policymakers announced tariffs aimed directly at Canadian oil producers, setting off a ripple effect that experts predict could significantly impact gas prices across the country. One major player, Irving Oil, a prominent refinery in Canada supplying much of the northeastern United States, recently delivered sobering news to customers. In an official statement, Irving Oil clarified that the company would not absorb the costs associated with the new tariffs. Instead, these additional expenses would inevitably trickle down to consumers, potentially raising gas prices by an alarming 20 to 25 cents per gallon. Why is this happening now? At the heart of the issue lies trade policy. The U.S. administration argues that tariffs are necessary to rebalance trade deficits and protect domestic oil producers. Yet, economists and industry insiders warn that these protective measures may have unintended consequences, hurting consumers more than helping the domestic energy industry. Currently, regions such as the Northeast heavily depend on Canadian oil, given their limited pipeline access to domestic U.S. sources and reliance on overseas imports. Analysts highlight that these new tariffs may disproportionately affect consumers in states like Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, where Canadian energy imports constitute a significant portion of the supply. The critical question on everyone's mind: can U.S. refineries quickly pivot to alternative sources to keep prices steady? The short answer, unfortunately, is complicated. Experts explain that while U.S. refineries could theoretically seek alternatives from other countries or domestic sources, the reality is far less straightforward. Adjusting refinery operations takes considerable time, and new sources often require costly infrastructure adjustments or longer transport routes, all of which inevitably push costs higher. Furthermore, geopolitical tensions and global energy market fluctuations add another layer of complexity. Oil-rich countries across the globe are watching the situation closely. Producers in the Middle East, Latin America, and even Africa could see new opportunities arising from America's strained trade relationship with Canada. However, relying on these regions introduces new risks, such as political instability and higher transportation costs, which could further exacerbate price volatility. Consumers, already grappling with inflation and economic uncertainty, find themselves caught in the middle. The anticipated rise in gas prices not only impacts commuting costs, but could also drive up prices for goods across the board. Transportation costs are embedded into virtually every product Americans buy, from groceries to electronics. As transportation expenses increase, businesses may pass these costs along to consumers, adding pressure on already tight household budgets. Critics of the tariff policy argue that while the intent is to protect U.S. jobs and production, the net effect could be counterproductive. Higher energy prices typically suppress consumer spending, potentially slowing economic growth and offsetting any short-term gains in the domestic energy sector. Some economists warn that sustained high gas prices could even push the U.S. closer to a recession, especially when combined with ongoing inflationary pressures. Still, proponents defend these tariffs as essential tools in a broader strategy to achieve energy independence and revive American oil production. They claim the pain at the pump could be temporary, with long-term gains in employment and economic stability as domestic production ramps up. What's next? Experts and consumers alike will closely monitor how quickly and severely prices rise and whether alternative energy sources can effectively offset disruptions. Meanwhile, policymakers face tough decisions, balancing immediate economic pressures with strategic trade and energy goals. Ultimately, drivers across America are advised to prepare for higher costs in the coming weeks and months. Staying informed and adapting to market changes will be crucial as the country navigates these turbulent energy waters.